Hello everybody, and welcome to the channel, Out of Ammo, Out of Time. I'm your host, Krabby Terror 8, and welcome to week 8 of the Investigator games. I can't believe that it's week 8. Things have gone so fast, 2 whole months, and I'm really enjoying putting these together. I've had some comments saying, oh, can you keep playing the same scenario over and over again? I have to say I am really enjoying playing the same scenario over and over again because each time it's completely different. And of course, it's really not about me, it's about the investigators. They've signed up for this sport. They're the ones who are participating. They're the ones who want to win and get to the top of the league. So it's fascinating watching how they perform in this scenario, which really kind of summarizes what the investigator games are about. It's really about taking each investigator and putting them through a scenario with their starter deck, in this particular case, the Gathering, and seeing how they do. And at the end of the video, you'll see a league table and you'll be able to see how they're performing. At the moment, I'm not going to say who's at the top of the league table. You could forward fast to the end and have a look. But at the moment, the gold standard is finishing the Gathering in 9 turns. In 9 rounds or 9 turns, and essentially in that time gathering all of the clues, so getting all of the victory points for the cellar and the attic. So that's 2 victory points, and defeating the ghoul priest. That's been the best. That's been done in 9 turns. So anybody who's going to do better than that is going to have to either get those victory points in less than 9 turns, or if they are going to take longer, then they're going to need to gather more victory points, which can only happen in this scenario if the icy ghoul or the flesh eater pops up, which sometimes happens and sometimes doesn't. So for those who saw last week with Jenny Barnes, she spent a lot of time waiting actually for the icy ghoul or the flesh eater to pop up. I won't tell you spoilers how that went, but you can look at that in the previous video. So anyway, that's what the investigator games are. It's fascinating to see how they perform. Just another thing, spoiler warning, if you haven't played the Gathering before, if you're absolutely brand new to the game, I really would strongly urge you to go and play the Gathering in real life. If you're here because you've played the Gathering a number of times, you maybe want to see an investigator and see how they play it, or you're just following the league, then fantastic. I really appreciate you being here. I really appreciate all the views and all the likes and all the subscriptions. I seriously had no expectation that anybody other than me was going to watch this, so I really do appreciate all of that. So here we are in part 8 of Zoe Samaras. Is it Samaras or Samaras? I'm not sure which way to say it, but she is the Dunwich Legacy or Dunwich Legacy Guardian. She's pretty crazy. She's a chef. And yes, I attempted to have a chat to Zoe in the green room before the beginning of this episode, as I always do. And not since Agnes have I felt so fearful for my life, because I went into the green room, as I usually do, just to have a chat to Zoe, how things are going, how she's feeling, those sorts of things. First thing is, and I mean, the green room kitchen is fairly small and not that big. Not much goes on. Like I said, we don't have a lot of funds to do a lot there. So, but Zoe was in there actually making sushi and sashimi, which I was very excited about. I'm a big fan of sushi and sashimi, so I thought we might have a chat over the food. And her knife skills were just, amazing, and so they should be. She's a chef, so that was like fantastic. So as I started talking to her, I realized to my horror that I was wearing a Cthulhu for President t-shirt. Like, I didn't know. I didn't think, just one of the t-shirts I have. I just wore it. So as we started talking, she looked at my t-shirt and just berserk. She started screaming about God has chosen me to smite the wicked. You are the wicked. And suddenly um, her knife she was using to slice up very fine pieces of salmon and tuna. Suddenly, she was brandishing this knife at me. So things got really bad really fast. I can't believe this happened. So there I am. I'm running out of the green room. There's this woman in an apron with this huge knife screaming at me, chasing me down, chased me out of the building, down the street. I was fearful for my life. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I'm screaming, help, help. She's running after me, screaming something about smiting the wicked and all sinners will be put down and all this kind of thing. I'm just incredibly lucky because as I was running down the street, I'd forgotten, but I'd asked Father Matteo to come and see me because obviously he's going to be in the Investigator Games in a few weeks. And I usually just have a conversation with each investigator about, the rules and how it's all going to work. And he just happened to be coming to see me. So he was able to stop Zoe and talk her down. And I hid in a side alley. And he was able to talk her down and bring her to a place and just explain what was going on. She listened to him. So it was really touch and go there for a moment. So I'm much calmer now. The good news is I found my wallet. It was thrown. Remember, Skids stole my wallet. Well, I found it. There was nothing in it, but it had been discarded behind a trash bin in the side alley. So that was something. Anyway, so I haven't spoken to Zoe at all. I've got no idea what she thinks, but I suppose, I think Zoe's got a pretty good chance, I think, in terms of that gold standard of getting this done. I think she's probably got a good chance of doing that in this particular scenario, and particularly if we have a look at her cards. So I've got her deck here laid out with all her cards. She's an amalgamation of Guardian cards, obviously neutral cards, and then some spell cards. So she's a very strong fighter, Zoe, and stronger for the fact that she's got her special ability, Zoe's Cross, which allows her to basically, monsters or enemies like rats, she can pretty much insta-kill them with her cross. But she's got machetes and guns, and she's a very strong fighter. So I think she'll have no problem dispatching the ghouls and the enemies and the ghoul priest. The one thing I was mainly concerned about was, is she going to be able to get all of the clues? So in this starter deck, they're never optimized, but in this starter deck, we've got things like the flashlight, but importantly, we have one copy of Rite of Seeking. Now, if I was optimizing this deck, I would probably have more than one copy of Rite of Seeking, but there is a copy of Rite of Seeking. So hopefully, if it doesn't end up at the bottom of the deck, and we can get Rite of Seeking relatively early, or the flashlight indeed, we should be able to pick up the clues relatively quickly, and then we could dispatch the ghoul priest relatively fast. So that's what I'm hoping is going to happen. A couple of other things. The basic weakness that Zoe drew is drawing the sign, which basically limits your hand size. So this can be problematic because you don't want this hanging around if you want a significant number of cards in your hand. You don't want to be throwing those out. So, I mean, it's not the world's worst weakness. Hopefully it won't turn up anyway, but if it does, we'll just have to see where we are with our cards. Because this is a starter deck and it's not optimized, there's a couple of cards in here which aren't very helpful for a solo deck. This one being Teamwork, where you can trade items and ally assets with somebody else. Well, that's not going to happen, so it's really just a wildcard pip. Yes, and also this card Taunt, which may be useful in the gathering, but in most cases, you're not usually engaging multiple enemies. So again, it's probably going to be more useful for the pips rather than anything else. So there's a couple of cards which are less than optimum in this deck, but that's okay. They're starter decks, they're never optimum. But I think personally, I don't know what Zoe thinks, but I personally think we've got a pretty good chance if we can get some of our weapons onto the table and we can get the Rite of Seeking and or the flashlight out for the seller, then I think Zoe has every chance of doing really, really well in this particular scenario. So I'm going to close up and shuffle the deck. There we go. Just a couple of other things before we start. The Ghoul Priest is feeling very nervous, I think. Zoe has a reputation. She has a reputation of pounding enemies into the ground. So the Ghoul Priest is a little bit like last week with Jenny. He's sweating a bit because Zoe has a reputation of taking out the Ghoul Priest quickly and effectively. So not feeling very confident. Lita is also not feeling very confident. She doesn't imagine that Zoe is going to be the kind of investigator who's going to have any interest in bringing her on board. Although they are both on the same team when it comes to how they feel about monsters. They tend to both be zealots, so they are aligned in that way. But Zoe just generally just doesn't need someone like Lita. Zoe's ability to parley with a 2 intellect is not great either, and she won't be wearing fine clothes, so it's unlikely. The other thing I should say about Lita was that there's been more developments in the ongoing saga about Lita and Wendy. As you know, Rex and Roland have been investigating in different ways what happened and why Wendy got Lita on board when she kind of wasted a turn doing it. Well, the interesting thing is that both Rex and Roland have discovered something that came to light. You may have read it in the paper or seen it on the news, but actually, local state law where the investigator games are held, actually there are clear laws about minors being allowed to participate in these sorts of quite dangerous events without consent from a guardian or someone like that. So actually, technically, Wendy shouldn't have been actually participating at all. It turns out that she's spoken to the investigators and told them the reason she was running into the parlour was so Lita could sign the guardianship papers, which mean that her participation was legal. So that was the reason why she did it, because if she hadn't done that, then her participation would have been null and void. So it looks like, on the surface at least, if that's the case, that there was actually really good reasons why Wendy ran into the parlour before the end of the scenario. She needed Lita to sign the papers, which meant that she could legitimately participate, and the papers basically saying that Lita, as her guardian, allowed her and indemnified her and all those other things to actually participate. So there you go. That was really, really interesting revelation. But anyway, I'm sure for those who haven't been following this ongoing story, that would be very boring. So let's, I think that's all. We are here at turn 1 of the investigation phase. Everything's out on the table, ready to go. So I think it's just a case of drawing the cards and reading out the scenario. So I think I'll start by reading out the cards. And here we have Agenda 1A of the Gathering. What's going on? I wonder why they put the question mark first and not the... Does it matter if you put the question mark first and then the exclamation mark? Or... don't know. See, every time I read this, I find something else. What's going on? Maybe it's what's going on, like really loud. I don't know. It's late at night. You're holed up in your study, researching that. Wouldn't she be held up in the kitchen? Anyway, you're holed up in your study, researching the bloody disappearances that have been taking place in the region. A few hours into your research, you hear the sound of strange chanting coming from your parlour down the hall. At the same time, you hear dirt churning, as if something were digging beneath the floor. And I'm sure Zoe's like, aha, more more monsters and abominations to slay. So this is like a kind of home delivery for Zoe. This is like awesome. She doesn't have to go out finding them. They're just literally turning up at her house. It's like fantastic. Bonus. And trapped. As you leap to investigate, does she leap? Is she a leaper? Not really, not with a 2, not with a 2 agility. As you slowly get to your feet to investigate, the door to your study vanishes before your eyes, leaving behind only solid wall. Shouldn't it be the solid wall, leaving behind the solid wall? Oh, a solid wall, leaving behind only a solid wall? I wonder why they left out the A, because the study vanishes before your eyes, leaving behind only a solid wall. Solid wall. You're trapped inside your study until you can find another way out. So there we go. That's the act and the agenda. So the first thing to do is to draw the cards. We've shuffled up the deck. I'm very excited. This is my favorite part, really. Shuffling up the deck and drawing our first hand. What do I want to see? I want to see a weapon. I definitely want to see a weapon. I also want to see a flashlight and or the rite of seeking. Either of those would be good, because once we've got those, then getting to the cellar and finding those clues is then going to be relatively straightforward. I think they're the main things. I don't think there's anything... I mean, it would be nice to get Zoe's Cross, because Zoe's Cross means we can dispatch the rats, like, you know, really easily. So that would also be a handy card to get off the bat. So let's see what we get. So we get, yes, Holy Rosary. Yes, I like this card a lot, because that means we've got a 5 willpower. That means any spell we're using, fantastic, really, really good. And it also boosts our defense against horror as well. Second is a knife. Well, there you go. That's our weapon. That's actually quite a good weapon to have, because you can use it in the short term. If Crypt Chill comes up, we can get rid of it. It's not a big deal. So that's quite good. Third one is emergency cash. Well, it's always good to have cash. I mean, Zoe does generate quite a lot of cash, because every time she gets engaged with an enemy, that sounds like she's going to marry them, doesn't she? Gets engaged with an enemy. Every time she becomes engaged with an enemy, she gets resources. So emergency cash is not as useful as it might be for other investigators, but particularly at the start when we want to get a lot of stuff out, it's actually quite good. And in this scenario, there aren't a lot of enemies and monsters, particularly on solo. So, you know, we don't maybe generate as much cash as we might in other circumstances. There's the flashlight. Fantastic. So this is looking really good. And the fifth is Zoe's Cross. Look at that. Wow. So we pretty much got everything that we asked for here. We got the Holy Rosary, which is great. We got a weapon. We have a flashlight, and we got Zoe's Cross. So I think that's a really good draw. I'm actually thinking I might keep all of those, because I'm probably going to try and just cash out an emergency cash and get as much of these assets out on the table to really set ourselves up so that we can really race through this. So there we go. Good start. So here we are, turn 1 of the investigation phase. The crowd goes wild. Zoe's ready. She's got the knife ready. She's ready to roll. And so let's get going on the Investigator Games Part 8, and let's see how Zoe goes. So here we go. Now put 3 actions on Zoe. Got 3 actions. Now we have 2 clues in the study, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a lot of cash and bring out a whole bunch of things. That's what I want to do first. So I'm going to spend these 3 goes actually bringing things out. So what I want to do is I want to bring out, first of all, Zoe's Cross, which if an enemy becomes engaged, we can spend a resource and deal damage to an enemy. Nice. So that's the first thing we're going to do. We are also that's our first action. Second action, we're going to spend a resource and bring out the knife, because I don't want to be crit chilled. That's our second action. Yep. And then for our third action, I'm going to spend 2 resources, and I'm going to bring out the Holy Rosary. Okay. So we have, no, I'm not going to bring out the Holy Rosary because we can't have Zoe's Cross and the Holy Rosary out at the same time. I can hear you all screaming, you can't do that. So I'm going to put that back and I'm going to bring out the flashlight instead and give it 3 supplies. Yeah. So there we go. That was our 3 turns. 3, 4, yeah, 1. So there you go. We've brought out a flashlight. We've got the flashlight out. We've got the knife out. We've got Zoe's Cross out. If we get crypt chilled and we don't pass the crypt chill, then we'll just discard the knife because I'm sure we'll get some other weapons. I'm sure that they'll pop along. Okay, there we go. That's the first turn. It was very much a setup turn. It was very much about getting a whole lot of things onto the table to set us up for the rest of the game. So no clues yet. And in fact, that's the thing. We may need to use the flashlight because we don't have a rite of seeking. So we may need to use the flashlight to actually get ourselves out of the study next turn. Because I forget, of course, that Zoe has only 2 intellect. And so we don't want to be hanging around in the study turn after turn trying to get a 0 or better. So I'm glad I brought out the flashlight because we're probably going to have to use it. Okay, that's the end of our inaugural investigation phase. We move straight into the enemy phase, or the enema phase, as I like to call it. Groan from the crowd. And there are no enemies to speak of, so we can move straight into the upkeep phase. Upkeep phase, we gain a resource. We do get a spell, but we don't get a spell that we can use the spell later. But this spell doesn't, of all the spells, I mean, Zoe isn't an evader, really. She's not really an evader. She's more of a fighter. So this, having this in her deck is probably more for the willpower than anything. But anyway, that's what we got. It would have been nice to get the rite of seeking, but that's what we have. Okay, so we move into everybody's favorite phase. Everybody who plays Arkham Horror, the card game, prays and loves for the Mythos phase. Isn't it everyone's favorite phase? So let's move into the inaugural Mythos phase. First Doom on the Mythos phase. And it's time to draw our first encounter card. And the first encounter card is, well. It is the Flesh Eater. Now, this is problematic because I've had a couple of people comment on this and I'll just explain. So, first of all, I've put all the locations out, which is not the way you play the game in real life. In real life, you would just have the study out because these don't exist on the table. Now, that's the first thing. So the second thing is that in the original Night of the Zealot, if you draw something like the Flesh Eater or the Icy Ghoul, they actually go to the discard pile. And the reason for that is because the locations where they spawn don't currently exist. Now, I know in the Return of the Night of the Zealot, they changed the rules on that if the Flesh Eater comes out, then it spawns with the attic onto the table. Now, there was some backing and forthing and some conversations about this. I checked on the Arkham Horror Facebook page and I asked people about this. I think where I've netted out on this is I am playing the Gathering with the original rules. I'm not using the revised rules here with the revised text. So I am going to, and in this case, I would actually prefer it to have the Flesh Eater in the attic because that's a victory point. However, I'm going to stick to the original rules, which is if you're in the study and the Flesh Eater and the Icy Ghoul come up, they just never spawn. They just go straight to the discard pile. So that's what I'm going to do, which is not to my advantage. I would have preferred it the other way, but I'm going to stick to the original rules. I'm not playing the Return to the Night of the Zealot, just to make that clear. Okay, so that's the Mythos phase finished. We are back to the investigation phase, and I'll put 3 actions on Zoe. So here we are in the study, we're all kitted out. I think I'm not going to waste time trying to get 0 or better in the study. I'm going to use the flashlight because otherwise it's going to be quite difficult. So let's do some investigatory ring. And so for my first action, I'm going to take a resource off the flashlight, spend 1 supply, -2 shroud, so it's 0. We are at 2, which means a -2 or better. Chaos Bag says, that's good, that's a -1, so we're successful. So we get the first clue. We're going to do that again. So for our second turn, we're going to do that again. And so it's a -2 or better. Chaos Bag says, yeah, that's a skull. It's -1 for the number of ghoul enemies. There are none, so we again succeed. In fact, I didn't need to use a flashlight for that one, but so there we go. That's 2 of our turns. We've got the 2 clues. So we have a choice now. We could flip the study, or we could wait. Now, I was actually in my previous ones, when previous investigators were playing, they were flipping the study super quick. Actually, somebody commented on the Jenny video I did last week that actually that's not a great strategy, and I thank the person who, I just don't remember their name off the top of my head, I do apologize, but I thank the person who gave me this feedback, which is actually you're better off waiting and flipping at the beginning of your phase, because if a ghoul minion spawns or a rat spawn or something in the study, you can then flip the study and instantly kill the enemies. So you're actually better off waiting. The only downside would be in the unlikely event that we then draw the icy ghoul, because then we've lost 2 chances to get an extra victory point. But the chances are pretty low that would happen. And it would be better to not have to fight, something. I mean, there is some benefit, but we would get the benefit anyway. Even if something spawned, we would get the resource anyway. So what I'm going to do then for the third action is I'm going to play Emergency Cash, which gives me 3. Or should I draw a card? Because I've got 2 resources already. You know what? I'm going to draw a card for the third action. And we get Viscous Blow. I know it's Vicious Blow, but I like to call it Viscous Blow because that picture looks pretty viscous, I have to say. So yes, I got a Viscous Blow. So that's a good card for down the track. It's for our third turn, for our third action. And that's us done for this particular phase. There we go. So in this phase, we got both of the clues, so we'll be ready to flip the study. Next go. And we drew a card. So there we are. And we still have one resource on the flashlight. So all good. Things are going well. We're in turn 2. We've still got some time, but we do need to get moving because if we're going to do this quicker than anybody else. So we move into the enema phase. There are no enemas to speak of. We move into the upkeep phase and we draw the machete. Fantastic. Now at the moment, we can't play the machete. Well, we can, but then we would lose one of these. So I'm not going to, might hold off playing it for a little bit, particularly if we get a crit chill, because then we can discard the knife and bring in the machete. Or if the flashlight's exhausted, we've got no more resources on the flashlight, then that's an easy replacement. And then we're really rocking Zoe then with a knife in one hand and a machete in the other. There doesn't get much more Zoe in that. In fact, when I play Zoe, I don't even put any firearms in my deck. I just have knives and machetes, etc., because that feels about right for Zoe. So that's the end of the upkeep phase. We move into the second Mythos phase in turn 3. We now have 2 Doom on the agenda, so next turn that will flip. And let's see what we get in terms of the encounter deck. And for the encounter deck, we get Crypt Chill. Yes, Crypt Chill, the lovely Crypt Chill. Test 4. If you fail, discard an asset you control. So it's 4, and we are a 4. So the question is, do we commit anything to this? For example, the Holy Rose. I nearly said the Holy Rosemary. That'd be a good card, wouldn't it? The Holy Rosemary. Anyway, so do I commit some of these? You know, I don't feel like I'm ever going to use Blinding Light. I don't feel like that would be something that I would use. And I don't really want to have to... I mean, you know, does it matter if I lose the knife? I've got the machete, so it's not really the end of the world, is it? What to do. And as for the Holy Rosary, I'm probably not going to play that because I want to keep Zoe's cross, because that's so awesome. So I'm probably not going to use this. So I'm going to commit the Holy Rosemary. I think I will keep Blinding Light just in case we do want to evade for some reason. Well, because we just, you know, we do a damage when we do it. So, but then again, oh, it's used willpower instead of evasion. So, yeah, I think we'll do that. So it's a 5 versus a 4. Do we make it a 6 versus a 4? Do we? Because it would be awesome to have the knife, because it's always good to, like, throw the knife as a sort of a last-ditch thing. Yeah, but maybe we should keep this because there are other things which are much worse. So it might be worthwhile keeping this because we might get a rotting remains, for example. So I'm just going to do 5 versus 4, okay? And Chaos Bag says -2. Yes. So it was 5 versus 4. Got a -2. So he failed. So that means we do throw out the knife. There we go. There we go. That frees up a spot. It's not the end of the world. There we go. So, end of the mythos phase. So let's move into the investigation phase. We are going to spend our 2 clues. Oh, let's put the actions on first of all. 3 actions. 3 actions. Let's spend the 2 clues. 1, 2. There we go. We spend the 2 clues and we flip the act. So here we go. You notice that the edges of your newly purchased rug are tattered and mud-stained. Finding this odd, you shift the furniture aside, screaming that all unbelievers will be executed if they are found, and pull back the rug. To your surprise, you see the door leading out of your study. You slowly turn the knob, and the door swings open, revealing your hallway below. You jump through, screaming death to and abominations, and you jump through the doorway and land on your feet on the soft dirt. The door to your study slams shut above you. The smell of burning wood fills the narrow hall, intermingled with the scent of rot and decay. There we go. So here we go. Put into play the set-aside hallway, cellar, attic, and parlor. Discard each enemy in the study. Place the investigator in the hallway and remove the study from the game. So we pop into the hallway. The study disappears. Bye-bye study. And that's the lot. That's it. So we can remove that. And we're into the barrier. A glowing barrier blocks the path to your parlor. As you move towards it, intense heat forces you to back away. Picking up a handful of dirt, you toss it at the barrier and watch in horror as the dirt incinerates. Perhaps there's something in the cellar or attic that can help. When the round ends, investigators in the hallway may, as a group, spend the requisite number of clues to advance. There we go. So that's what we've got to do. So here we are. We have 2 choices. We can go down to the cellar, or we can go up to the attic. I'll just flip the hallway. Sorry, I should have done that. There's no clues on it. We just flip the hallway. Well, at the moment we've only got the flashlight with one charge on it, so I don't think that's going to be enough at the moment. I would like to get either another flashlight or the Rite of Seeking or something so that we can get both of the clues in the cellar. There's going to be no flesh eater, plus it would be great if the icy ghoul spawns, so I would rather hold off going into the cellar for the moment. And let's take a little trip up to the attic. So we move up to the attic, la-di-da-di-da, up to the attic. First one, we flip that. Yes, it's a gourmand's delight in the attic of rotting flesh and blood draining slowly. 2 clues on the attic. And we take a horror. So we take a horror. Yes, so that was our first turn up to the attic. Our second turn, I'm actually going to pay 3, sorry. And I'm going to bring out the machete because I don't want to be caught without a weapon. We've lost a weapon. If we get crypt chill and we fail it again, then the flashlight is gone. So see how we go. So we've got the machete in place. 2 hand slots taken up. Necklace slot is taken up. So, but no, we've got guard dog and other things like that. So we don't have any allies yet. So it'd be nice to get an ally, or not 2, but an ally into play. So that was our second turn. And then the third turn, we will investigate, and we're just going to straight up investigate 1 versus 2. 1 versus 2, -1 or better. Chaos bag says 0, success. There we go. So we get a clue. Fantastic. So there we go. Our third turn, we moved up to the attic. And actually, the attic would be, it is a gourmand's delight, so you would think Zoe would be quite interested in what's in the attic. But anyway, we brought out the machete and we got our first clue. So we're heading towards our first victory point. So as long as we manage to get the next clue next turn, we're on a good trajectory. It'd be really great to get Rite of Seeking or another flashlight right now. So we move into the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. So we move directly into the good old upkeep phase, and we get, yeah, teamwork. Well, it's worth a wildcard pip, so that's better than nothing. Kick in the pants, that's better than nothing. So, but it would be good to get something else. So there we go. That's the end of the upkeep phase, and we'll move directly into the Mythos phase. And this is a special, I should have deleted this. This is a special Mythos phase because we've now flipped, Doom has gone to 3, so we take these off. We flip the agenda, and it says, your house continues to change before your very eyes. The walls have decayed and the ground in many rooms has turned to dirt. It is almost as if you have been transported somewhere else entirely, although every now and again you recognize elements of your former home. Ah, that's where that cross went. Ah, that's where that cross with a gun and dagger combo went. Ah, that's where Death to All Abominations, the little tapestry I did and hung on the wall, that's where that went. Things like that. The lead investigator must decide either each investigator discards a card at random from his or her hand, or takes 2 horror. So we don't have a lot of horror to play with as Zoe. We're already down to 5, so I'm keen not to do that. I don't feel like any of these cards are so absolutely definitely have to have kind of cards. I'm just going to discard 1 at random. So you can't see this, but you can actually click here and do a random discard, and we lose the emergency cash. Okay, fine. That's if of all the cards, that's the one I probably would have gotten rid of. So there we go. So we're into Rise of the Ghouls. The floor beneath you is giving way, and you see a vast network of tunnels twisting into the darkness below. Shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures move swiftly through the tunnels, trying to find a way up. You probably don't want to be here when they do. Now, that would apply to most of the investigators, but I think when it comes to Zoe, that's not true. She wants to be there when they get there, so she can kill as many of them as she can. So, anyway, so we've got 7 turns now. So that's the end of the flipping the agenda, and we then have to draw an encounter card. It'd be awesome to get the Icy Ghoul. Let's see how we go. And no, we don't get an Icy Ghoul, but we do get a Ghoul. So we get a Ghoul minion engages with us in the attic. And when we do engage, after you become engaged with an enemy, gain a resource. So we get a resource. And after an enemy becomes engaged with you, exhaust Zoe's Cross and spend 1 resource and deal 1 damage to that enemy. So let's exhaust the Zoe's Cross. Let's spend a resource and let's do a damage on the enemy. So that's a good start. I'm hoping I'm not going to get into trouble with player windows here. I'm going to assume that if it says that after you become engaged, as soon as you become engaged, you can exhaust Zoe's Cross and spend a resource. I don't know that you have to wait for your player window like you do with the little lightning bolt ones, which I don't think we have. So it's like you become engaged with an enemy in any way, you get a resource, and then Zoe's Cross, you can literally spend that resource and deal the damage, which I did. But it's exhausted now, so I can't use it again till the upkeep phase. That's fine. So we smack the ghoul minion in the head with the cross and do some damage. So there we go. That's the Mythos phase done. We'll move directly into the upkeep phase, the investigation phase. 3 actions on Zoe. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to dispatch this ghoul minion. We're just going to hit it. It's got a fight of 2. We have a fight of 4 plus 1. So we have a fight of 5. 5 versus 2, -3 or better. Chaos Bag says -1. Ghoul dead. Good night, Ghoul. So that's our first action. Got 2 more actions. So I think the next thing that we do is we investigate. So it's a 2 versus a 1. I'm just going to go straight up and see if we get it. Chaos Bag says +1. Easy. The clue was actually right there at Zoe's feet. The clue was right there, jumping up and down, going, I'm a clue. Investigate, investigate. Here I am. It was literally just there. So there we go. That was our second action. We've got 2 clues. So I guess the only thing left to do now is to move back to the hallway. Yep. It's our third action, so we're going to head down to the cellar. Problem is, we've only got sort of 1 opportunity really, and it's not the world's greatest opportunity to investigate with the flashlight. So it would be awesome to either get another flashlight, or the Rite of Seeking right now would be an absolutely perfect card to get. So that's our 3 actions. We killed a ghoul. We investigated again and successfully got the second clue, which means that we have a victory point here. I'll put a damage on that, and the crowd goes wild. Yay! Wow! Zoe puts her apron over her head and does a circuit around the hallway for the victory point in the attic. So we're on our way. And then we move back to the hallway. So that's what we've done this turn. That's the end of the investigation phase. Let's move into the enema phase. And there are no enemies to speak of. So we move straight into the upkeep phase. And look at that, it flips back. Awesome. Wow. That's why I love using things like Octagon. It does all those things that in real life you've got to, I always forget, I've got to put everything back, and it's Mythos phase and I forgot to do that. It does it for you, which is really handy. So we got an overpower. Okay, we got an overpower, so that's more fight. But right now it's investigation things that we need. Anyway, not to worry. So that's what we got in the upkeep phase. So I'm just going to take a drink of water here. Let's move into the Mythos phase. This is turn 5. Turn 5. Mythos phase in Rise of the Ghouls. So there's a Doom on the Rise of the Ghouls. And let's see what we get. It would be so awesome to get the Icy Ghoul right now. It would really be awesome. Let's see how we go. Encounter deck says, no. It's Ancient Evils, which is an annoying and boring card. Is there a more annoying and boring card than Ancient Evils? It's boring because all it does is put one doom on the agenda. That's annoying as well. So it's annoying and boring. Yeah. So, but you know, that's the way it is. So let's put another doom on the agenda. There we go. It's the end of the mythos phase, and we move into the investigation phase. We get 3 actions. 3 actions. Now, let's move into the cellar, and let's see how we go. So we move into the cellar, clunk, clunk, clunk. Move into the cellar, flip the cellar. 2 clues on the cellar, 2 clues. And after you enter the cellar, you take a damage. Ouch! As we're walking down, we scrape our toe on one of those bones or something. Ow, that hurt. So we take a horror. We take a damage, which, you know, Zoe's got 9 health, so not really worried about that very much. So here we are. That was our first action. 2 actions left. Shout out to, I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the person, but shout out to the person who told me I was playing too far to the left on the screen. Yeah, it was really strange. I was kind of scrunching everything up to the far left, so I have moved things further to the right, so it's got a bit more room. So thank you for that feedback. That was fantastic. So here we are in the cellar. We've got the 2 clues. We've got the flashlight. And we've got a Shroud of Fall. So I think we try and get one of the clues. So we expend a last supply, which brings this down to a Shroud of 2. We are an intellect of 2. So that's basically a 0 or better. I'm going to throw in this teamwork, because that's the only other card I have. So that makes it a -1 or better. Let's see what the Chaos Bag says. Chaos Bag says -1. So we get the clue. Fantastic. So we've got all the clues to progress, but we really want to get that last clue if we can. That was our second action. We really want to get that last clue if we can, because then we get another victory point. So a little bit like some other investigators, we're sort of in this place where there's plenty of time. This is not like when you normally play Arkham Horror, the card game, and you're trying to get through the scenario. This is more like a sport. The best performing investigators have all the victory points, and they've done it all within nine turns, as I said. So really, Zoe has a choice here. She can try and get this final clue, or she's going to have to hope that the Icy Ghoul is going to pop up to get her that victory point. Because if neither of those things happen, she's going to be in the middle of the pack. She's not going to be at the top of the table. So she's going to be hoping for one of those 2 things. The other thing I should point out, and somebody else left this feedback, which again, thank you very much, because I didn't do this. When you use up all the resources, all the supplies on the flashlight, you don't actually have to discard it. I've been doing this all the time in real life and everything. I've just been, oh yes, use them all up, discard it. That's actually a really bad idea, because it's better to keep it there, because if Crypt Chill comes up, then you've got an easy thing to discard, because you just discard the flashlight. So I'm going to keep the flashlight there, because, you know, if Crypt Chill comes along, it's like, whatever, just get rid of the flashlight. Unless, of course, I get something that I want the hand slot for, but I've got the machete, so I don't think I need another hand slot for anything. So it's all good. So we've got 1 action left. There's no way we're investigating 4 versus 2. It's not going to happen. So for the 3rd action, I'm just going to draw a card. And we get fast play, engage number of enemies at your location, which is 0. So that's, I mean, it's good for the pips, that's all. So that's the end of our investigation phase in turn 5. So we are going to really hope that we get Rite of Seeking, or an Icy Ghoul, or a flashlight. One of those 3. We've got 22 cards. 2 of them, so a 2 out of 22, 1 in 11, nearly a 1 in 10 chance it's going to draw one of those each time. Or we get the Icy Ghoul. So I don't know what the probabilities are, but they're probably fairly low. But anyway, let's see how we go. We move into the enema phase. There are no enemies to speak of. And we move into the upkeep phase, and we get physical training. Now, physical training in this particular circumstance is not really what we need. I mean, it'd be nice to have it out there and for the resources, but it's not fighting and willpower we need. It's actually intellect we need instead. So yeah, okay. So we didn't get any more investigation pieces. So we turn to the mythos phase. There are now 3 doom on the Rise of the Ghouls. The encounter card is Grasping Hands, which is like rotting remains, but this one is for damage. So this is test 3 agility. This is test 3 agility. Our agility is only 2, so we've got pretty rubbish agility. So I am going to pitch this card in. I know we've got lots of health, but you know, I'd rather avoid trying to take, you know, 3, lose 3 health all in one go. So that gives us a 3. That's a 2 versus a 1. So it's a 3 versus a 3. Chaos Bag says success, because there are no ghoul enemies at our location. So that was a success. That was good. Okay, so that's the end of the mythos phase. We move into the investigation phase. So here we are. We've got no way of investigating this clue at the moment. We don't need to trigger the Ghoul Priest. It's turn 6. So I think the best thing to do is to literally just draw some cards. So let's see how we go. So put 3 actions. Then take an action off. For our first action, we'll draw a card. We get Dynamite Blast. Yeah. A good card, but not what we need. For our second action, we get... And the crowd goes wild. We got Rider Seeking. But we can't play it. Because we don't have enough resources. It's very resource intensive. So for... yes. So that was, yes, we drew 2, didn't we? Yes. So what do we do for our third action? I think for our third action, we draw a resource. We've already got 3, but we'll draw another resource. So that gives us 4. That means we can play it and still have a resource handy if we want to play something like Taunt. I don't know. We might. Who knows? So that's the end of our phase. That was actually really great because we actually got exactly the card that we wanted. So things are looking like Zoe could really get this done, because in turn 7, we'll be able to get the final clue, which will give us our 2 victory points. We'll be able to move to the hallway, and then hopefully in turn 8, we can dispatch the Ghoul Priest. Yeah, we can literally dynamite the Ghoul Priest. We can bash the Ghoul Priest. It's gonna, yeah, and Zoe's gonna go all out. So fantastic. I'm really feeling very confident now that Zoe's going to do this. I won't be shaking her hand and congratulating her at the end. I'm not going anywhere near her, but however, I think it really might go that way. Feeling very positive now. Okay, so let's move into the enema phase. There are no enemies. Then we move into the upkeep phase and we draw a Guts. Yeah, always a nice card to get. And we get the resource, so we now have 5 resources. Brilliant. Then we... Oh, I've deleted this. Okay. Then we move into the Mythos phase. We've got 4 Doom on here. There's still a while before this flips. And we get an encounter card. And the encounter card... Oh, I just did the Chaos Bag. We get the encounter card is... Rats. Oh, rats. Yes. So we get rats, which means, first of all, that triggers, we get a resource. Ding. We'll then exhaust Zoe's Cross. And that kills the rats. There you go. Last. That's such a nice little combo, that, isn't it? We get, and we got to spend the resource. Yeah. So we got the resource. We then exhaust Zoe's Cross. We spend the resource and we deal 1 damage, kill the rats. So efficient, Zoe. So efficient. Brilliant. I love I just realized the artwork here. She's so kind of aggressive and so full on. You know, she's like knives and like smite the wicked and everything. But I've just realized, I don't think it's in this shot. Yes, it is that, you know, she's wearing this apron. I just realized it's got these lovely frills around the apron, which is just so at odds with her kind of incredibly aggressive kind of stance about everything. It's fantastic. Okay, so there we go. Yes, so that was the end of the mythos phase. Now, for those of you who are into statistics, some of you might be going, oh no, we just wasted an elder sign. That's not the way the statistics work. So this is it, everything has an equal chance every single go. So even if I'd drawn 16 elder signs in a row, which is highly unlikely from a probability perspective, but even if I'd drawn 16 elder signs in a row, the chance of drawing an elder sign again is again the same probability every single time. So it actually doesn't matter. It's not like you can use up your, you know, you only get one elder sign a go or something. It just doesn't work that way from a probability perspective. So there we go. Let's move into the investigation phase. I put 3 actions on Zoe. So that was really good with the cross because it means we're not wasting a turn getting rid of useless rats. We don't have to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to bring out the Rite of Seeking. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We bring out the Rite of Seeking, which has 3 charges on it. Yeah. Awesome. So that was our first action. Our second action is we're going to use the Rite of Seeking, which means we use our willpower instead of our intellect to investigate. Now, it's got a Shroud of 4. We have a willpower of 4, but we're going to put in the guts, which makes it a 6. And I think I'm going to put in the taunt, so that gives us a 7. So that's a 7 versus a 4. So we're really looking for a -3 or better, and if we are successful, we draw a card. Chaos Bag says -1. Easy. We've got it. That's fantastic. We draw a card. We get the Blackjack, which is a weapon which we are not going to use. This is one of those weapons that, I don't know, does anybody use the Blackjack? It's one of those ones where you get +1 attack, and if you perform this attack against an enemy engagement, you don't deal any damage, so you can't transfer the damage, but it's, I don't know if it gets much use. So there we go. We got a -1, so we didn't draw one of the symbols. So that means we don't lose all our other actions, which is really great. And we get the clue. So that was our second turn. We get the clue and we get the, not the doom. I always do this, mix up damage and doom. We get the victory point. So there's more screams and cheers as we do that. So we are really in a good position now to basically kill the Ghoul Priest. We've got everything we need. I'm going to move back to the hallway. We're going to get the Ghoul Priest on board, and we are going to dynamite and stab this Ghoul Priest to death. That's what we're going to do. So final action, we move back to the hallway. The only thing that might change my mind is if we get the Icy Ghoul. If the Icy Ghoul spawns in the cellar, I think I might go down there. Well, no, just dynamite the cellar and get the extra victory point. That's the only thing that's going to change the, except we won't know, will we? No, we won't know. So, yeah. I don't want to wait because it's already turn 7. I really want to set a new gold standard for the other investigators to follow. So, anyway, move to the enemy phase. There are no enemies to speak of. Move to the upkeep phase. Well, that throws a little bit of a spanner in the work. Put drawing sign into play in your threat area, and your maximum hand size is reduced by 5. So that's 5. That equals 5. So maximum hand size is now We can't keep all of these cards. So that's all right. Yes. So that's when we do the checking of the hand size is. Now you put that into the threat area. So it's not one of the cards. So this is really important. You draw it, you put it into your threat area, and then your hand size is what you've got left. So basically, it's reduced by 5, so you can basically have 3 cards, essentially. Okay. All right. Unless I take 2 turns and I discard it. Yeah, which, anyway. So that's a bit of that's a bit annoying. So that's the end of the upkeep phase, and this is where we now. I'm just thinking, it's turn 7. Just think about this. I could take another turn to see if the icy ghoul turns up, and then I could get rid of that. But it would already have done the damage. It would already have. I would already have lost the cards anyway. So it's kind of, it's not worth doing that. So what I'm going to do is check the hand size. I've got to lose 2 cards here. I think of all of them, I want to keep Vicious Blow, and I want to keep Overpower, and I want to keep Dynamite Blast. Can I afford Dynamite Blast? I can afford Dynamite Blast, actually. I didn't think about that. Sometimes I forget. I get so excited when I get Dynamite Blast, but of course, we've only got 2, and if the Ghoul Priest turns up, that'll give us 3, but we're not going to be able to use it. So I might as well get rid of the Dynamite Blast. And then of these ones, well, Blackjack, so I'm keeping that. It's really coming down to these 2. This has got a willpower and a fight pip. This has only got a fight pip. We're not going to be losing the machete, because even if we got a Crypt Chill, we would just get rid of, well, we don't need the Rite of Seeking, so we can get rid of the Rite of Seeking. So of the 2, I just get rid of the Blackjack. So there we go. Hand size is reduced by 5, 6, 7, 8. Got our 8 now. Okay. Okay. There we go. So that's the end of, just sorry, I'm just getting my brain into gear here. We are now going to spend the 3 clues. We're going to spend the 3 clues, and we're going to flip the barrier. So there we go. Using the barrel from the attic, you carry ice and snow from the cellar and hurl it at the barrier. The barrier sparks and shudders as it consumes the ice and then hisses and fades out of existence. The barrier blocking the passage into the parlour has vanished. Reveal the parlour. I'm not sure about this. Can someone let me know? When they say reveal the parlour, do they mean flip the parlour? Because I'm not in the parlour yet. I guess it means that, doesn't it? Because at the moment it's shrouded. So, or does it mean the parlour just appears on the board? I'm not sure which of those. I mean, it doesn't matter because you can't do anything unless you're in there anyway. Put Leader Chandler in there. And the Ghoul Priest down here. Hello, I'm here. Be nice to me, please. Can we just play Elder Signs or something instead? Nice, Zoe. Hello. Yeah. So, says and spawn it in the hallway. Okay, so just a couple of things. We are now engaged with the Ghoul Priest, which means we get a resource. I am going to exhaust Zoe's cross, spend a resource, and give a damage to the Ghoul Priest. Ow! Yeah, that was quick. Yep. So that's all of that. So a woman with a torch stands in your parlour, a glimmer of hatred in her eyes. What have you done to my barrier? She screams furious. Before you can answer, a ghastly wail sounds behind you, and a creature wearing robes and a deerskull mask tears through the wall, advancing toward you. You think they put an exclamation mark in there or something just to give it a bit more dramatic tension. If the Ghoul Priest is defeated, advance. There we go. Well, I can tell you it's probably likely that the Ghoul Priest is going to be toast. Okay, so that's that. So we know what we need to do. We're only up to 4 here. We now need to draw an encounter card, and the encounter card is frozen in fear. Yes. Okay, so we're frozen in fear, which basically means that it's going to. We're only getting 2 fights this go. Yes. Okay. All right. That's all right. Okay. So frozen in fear. Okay. And then we can test for it at the end. Very nice. Okay. So that's the end of and we're into the mythos phase. 3 actions. Now, can we kill the ghoul priest in 2 turns? Yes, we can. Can we? Yes, we can. We shouldn't have any problem doing that. So, the ghoul priest has a fight of 4, and we have a fight of 4 plus 1, so we have a fight of 5. And if we, with the machete, it's only 1 enemy, so we're only engaged with 1 enemy, which was good. If another enemy had come along, that would have been slightly problematic. So we're really a fight of 5. So, and then we've got the vicious blow here, which gives a plus 1. So, yes. So we don't want to use up, we've basically got 2 lots of fight. So what do we do first? Do we throw in, so I'm going to make it a 7 versus a 5. Do I do that one first, or do I do this and see if we draw another card? Let's do that first. So what I'm going to do first, which takes 2 turns because of apparently we're frozen in fear, which just doesn't really seem to work with Zoe. I can't imagine her being frozen in fear, but anyway. So we have now committed that. So we are a 4, 5, 7. 7 versus 4. Yeah, -3 or better. Chaos Bag says -3. There we go. That's right, isn't it? 4, yes. 5, 7. 7 versus 4. Success. Draw a card. Smite the wicked. Seriously? Anyway, discard the cards from the top of the encounter deck until an enemy is discarded. Attach Smite the Wicked to that enemy and spawn it in the location furthest from you. Yeah, okay. So let's do that. Let's just, first of all, before we do that, let's just put the damage on the priest. So that the ghoul priest. So that was 2 damage. So he's got 2 damage. We'll then put the Smite the Wicked. So the Smite the Wicked, we discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until an enemy, and then we put that in the location farthest from us. When the game ends, if attached enemy is in play, you suffer mental trauma. Well, that's going to happen. That's going to happen. It's just the way it is. So poor old Zoe is not going to... Anyway, let's see what we get. No. 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 Yeah, it's a ghoul minion. Furthest from as well. It could be anywhere. So let's just put it in the attic with the Smite the Wicked. There we go. In the attic with the Smite the Wicked. So in our last turn, in theory, if we'd had Blinding Light, we could have, in theory, evaded the Ghoul Priest. Then we could have moved... Well, no, we couldn't, because we've only got 1 go and we're frozen in fear. So it was a really unfortunate draw to have at the very end. But we'll just have to go with the mental trauma, which means we'll be starting Midnight Mass with 5 mental trauma. That's all right. We can manage that in other ways, either with Elder Signs or other allies or whatever we need. It's not the end of the world. Okay, so that was what we did first. Was we attacked the Ghoul Priest, smashed it for some damage, drew a card, got Smite the Wicked. And so now we have a final turn, and we will commit Vicious Blow and Personal Training. So that's 2 fights. So we're again a 7 versus a 4. So for the game, on turn 8, -3 or better, Zoe gets... No! Oh my goodness, no! Oh my goodness. Oh my my goodness. Okay. 4, and we had a 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 versus, no. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. So we get a retaliatory attack from the Ghoul Priest, so we take 2 horror and 2 trauma. I can't believe it. Two horror, 2 damage. Doom. Why do I keep doing that? Damage. So we're 3-3. I can't believe it. Anyway. Yes. So that's really bad. So at the end of your turn, test 3. So we're a 3 versus a 4. 3 versus a 4 for Frozen in Fear. Chaos Bag says Elder Sign. Elder Sign is +1. If this skill test is successful during an attack, it's not an attack. So anyway, we're no longer Frozen in Fear. So that's one thing at least. Oh dear, that was really unfortunate. Let me delete these. Okay. All right. We move into that was the investigation phase. We move into the enemy phase. The enemy does another 2-2, so another 2 damage. Oh my goodness. Take 2 more horror and 2 more damage. So we are literally on the edge from a horror. So we need to kill the Ghoul Priest next go. The Ghoul Priest's like, ha ha ha! You thought I was a pushover. No way, Jose! Ha ha! So Ghoul Priest is feeling very positive. Lita's like, I told you so. You should have got me out of here. Anyway. Yes. So we move into the upkeep phase. We get a Guts. Yeah, which is not particularly helpful for what we need. And then we move into the 6, the Rise of the Ghouls. So that hasn't flipped yet in the Mythos phase. So then we draw the encounter card. The encounter card is the Icy Ghoul. Now the Icy Ghoul turns up. Hello, I'm the Icy Ghoul. Yes, too little, too late for the Icy Ghoul there. There we go. Yes. Okay. So then from there we move into the investigation phase. So here we are. Yes, actually, I just realised. No, that wouldn't have worked. We need to do 2 points. Yeah, I was going to say if we'd got a creature spawning in the hallway, we could have done a point of damage. But however, no. So let's have a look where we are here. So we've got basically 2 choices. We can seek to evade the Ghoul Priest. That's not going to happen. 4 versus 2. The only card we have is Willpower, which we don't need. We can't take an attack of opportunity, because if we do, we go insane. So we really only have one choice. And the Ghoul Priest has Retaliate. So we are a 5. We've really got to do, all we have is 1 chance. This is the last chance saloon. The crowd goes into a hushed silence as Zoe has 1 last chance to hit and kill the Ghoul Priest, which would need to be a 5 versus a 4. A 5 versus a 4. So a -1 or better is what she needs to finish this game. Crowd goes silent. Chaos Bag says, oh! Ghoul Priest goes, aha! and we take 2 damage. 2 horror. And Zoe goes crazy, running around screaming, and is defeated by the Ghoul Priest. Ha ha! So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was not the way I thought this was going to go. 2 -4 draws. I really thought we would... it really, again, a little bit like one of our other investigators, it really came down to we could have been top of the table, and we've ended up at the bottom of the table. A really, really unfortunate run. We've gone insane, which means we've taken a mental trauma. In fact, we've taken 2 mental traumas because of Smite the Wicked. So things were going really, really well, and then just at the end there, they just went horribly badly. It would have been nice to have had the Icy Ghoul victory, but in the end, we ended up with 2 victory points, but we were defeated, and we have 2 mental trauma. So unfortunately, Zoe has crashed and burned somewhat in the gathering. That was a really unexpected outcome. I'm sure you're as gutted as I am that Zoe just fell at the last. She had a couple of chances, and both of them had really, really bad Chaos Bag draws. So that was all really very, very unfortunate. But that's the way it goes in Arkham Horror, the card game. There is always the element of luck either way. Sometimes things can go amazingly well, and sometimes they can just go really, really badly, and you just never know when that's going to happen. So anyway, oh, I'm so gutted for Zoe. Thank you so very, very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I really do appreciate all the likes and subscribes. After this video will be the league table, and you can see where everybody is, including poor old Zoe. Next week we're going to it's going to be a team effort, because Ashcan Pete will be stepping up to the plate in the investigator games with Duke, and we'll see how they go. Hopefully better than Zoe. So I look forward to you watching that video, and until then, I'm Krabby Terror 8, and I'll see you next time.